Hey, I'm Ashley McGee, and I want to welcome you to Healthier and Happier Humans, Episode 2. Now, this week I'm going to be talking about mental health because it is Mental Illness Awareness Week, and Mental Health Awareness Day is actually this Thursday, October 10th. And I want to give a trigger warning up front. I'm going to be talking about depression, anxiety, suicide prevention. And the reason why is because it's really, really important that we destigmatize these issues and talk about them. But if you are currently struggling or have struggled, this may be difficult. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I am using information from the National Alliance on Mental Health, aka National Alliance on Mental Illness, aka NAMI. But I do want to really stress first and foremost that mental health is just as important as physical health. I think a lot of times we talk about what we eat, working out, but we don't talk about taking care of our minds. And when we are struggling or sick, mental illness, like it is just as important to take care of. An appointment with a therapist is equally as important as an appointment with a doctor. So, and I truly, truly believe that. And I want to stress that before we get going. So, first, I want to give you a little bit of a background on my story. So, I am really, really adamant about talking about mental health because I personally have struggled with depression. I am very much a type A personality, very goal oriented. And on my first ship in the Navy, I found myself basically held back by my boss from being able to achieve the pretty much bare minimum to do my job successfully. And because of my personality type, that was really, really hard to deal with. Pair that with not a lot of sleep, crazy working hours, and just an increased distaste for the work I was doing. And I started to feel depressed. I felt stuck. I dreaded work. I would actually, when I left work at the end of the day, I would sit in my car and cry. At the time I lived in Hawaii, and I would drive home on the H3, which is like through the mountains. And I'd look at the guardrail and go, what if I just went over? And that started before I left on deployment, and it continued through deployment. So then I'm overseas, stuck on a ship, and again, still feeling this way. And it's so interesting because I actually felt like I had a rain cloud following me around, and I never would have anticipated that. But then I also had this like crisis of self because I was always this very positive, upbeat person, and suddenly I felt sad all of the time. And if I couldn't be a positive person, who was I? Right? So this depression started taking away my identity and just even comfort with myself because I didn't feel like I knew who I was anymore. And I did tell a couple people close to me, or people I trusted. Like I told my department head and I told my chief, and they were really supportive and kind of just kept an eye on me. But I got to the point eventually where I didn't think I could handle it by myself anymore. And I will say I was approaching it as someone that was pretty self-aware, right? So I was like, okay, I need to exercise every day because I need the chemical balance of endorphins to help me through this, right? I need to take time for myself as much as humanly possible because I am feeling this way. Like I knew these things and it wasn't enough. So I eventually went to our medical on board and said, hey doc, like I feel like I just can't get out of this fog. I'm sad all the time. This is what I'm doing, and I need help. And he looked at me, I'll never forget this, and said, I don't know how to help you because I feel the same way. That is a failure. That is a failure, not necessarily of him, but of the community, of the ship, of like medical training. Like, I don't even know. But in that moment, I felt completely and utterly alone. Now, I'm a pretty stubborn person. And so I was like, okay, well, apparently I have to, beat this on my own. So again, I really dug into the things, my coping strategies, right? So working out, I started writing. I used to write song lyrics as a hobby when I was, in high school. And I wrote a song that's basically, I wrote my way out of depression. And I'm not saying that that's a solution for everyone, but that's what happened. And then eventually when things finally moved forward in my work, it was like a weight was lifted off. And I recovered. But I will never, ever forget that year of feeling just total despair constantly. And so that's why I am so adamant about talking about mental health and being honest and letting people know that they are not alone, and that this is something that affects a ton of people and hurts a lot of people, especially when we judge and we stigmatize. So with that, I want to move into some stigmas that are total BS, okay? Sorry. Woo. Okay, going. All right. So first of all, it's not that bad, right? Like, other people have way worse issues. At least I'm not, dealing with something that intense. Like, it's just a little depression. Like, I'm fine. Or it's just a little anxiety. It's not that bad. You're just weak, right? Like, how many of us have thought to ourselves, oh, like, we're just not strong enough, we're just weak. Or people have told us, like, oh, just snap out of it, like, man up. Like, what the hell? No. People with mental health problems are dangerous. And I will fully admit, this is one that I have to work on, because I've been the person that sees a homeless person that's clearly mentally ill and does everything I can to avoid that person. That's something that I'm working on, right? Like, none of us are perfect. And I want to be honest with you where I'm working as well. Nobody will care. I'm going to tell you right now, there are people in your life that care about you, that love you, no matter how alone you feel. And the people that do this work, therapists, medical care providers, those people care too. It's why they do this work. So please, 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 please don't think that nobody cares, because it's just not true. And your condition is your fault, right? Kind of goes back to the weakness thing. But again, like, it's BS, right? Somehow we blame people for having anxiety or depression, but do you blame someone for having type 1 diabetes, which is, by the way, the one that's like genetic? No, absolutely not, right? So like, we need to drop it. Mental health, mental illness, it is equivalent to physical health, physical illness. Stop stigmatizing it. So how do we overcome stigmas? Well, just like this video, we talk openly about mental health. And I really, really want to encourage you to have conversations about this. It's so important. Educate yourself and others. Again, that's part of this goal, is talking about it, educating yourself, figuring out where the stigmas are, figuring out how to overcome them, being conscious of language. Like, I've tried to say the word crazy less, because that is a word that stigmatizes mental health and mental illness. Encourage equality between physical and mental illness, just like I've been talking about, right? Like, they're both so crucially important, and they are both just, you don't have control over either. Or you do, but you don't. There's nothing wrong with seeking help for mental illness, just like there's nothing wrong for seeking help for physical illness, is what I'm trying to say. I get a little flustered with this subject, obviously. Show compassion for those with mental illness. So this is everyone from family members to that homeless person on the street. Show compassion, see how you can help them. And don't try to fix them or change them, but offer resources, offer empathy. Choose empowerment over shame. So if you are struggling with a mental illness, don't hide away from shame. Like, don't hide from people, but empower yourself. Say, yes, this is something that I'm struggling with, but I'm going to go live a full and fulfilled life anyway, because I can, because I am empowered. Be honest about treatment. The more we talk about the fact that we do go to therapy and we are seeking help for things, again, it's going to break that stigma, because once you realize that everyone has a therapist, like, it's not, it's not taboo, it's not weird, it's not whatever, right? Like, and like, honestly, most people should have a therapist, right? Because we're all working through stuff. We're all imperfect humans. We're all working through stuff. Let the media know when they're being stigmatizing. So if you're watching a show or, see a movie or something and it has a really like stereotypical or stigmatizing portrayal of someone with mental illness, write to the studio, tweet about it, right? Like, social media is so powerful now. You could start a movement, just be like, hey, this isn't okay. And then lastly, don't harbor self-stigma. And what that means is, don't place these stigmas that society has created on yourself. Again, people care. It's not a weakness. It's an illness. It's so many times it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. You can't control that. Don't beat yourself up because you think something's wrong with you. Because it's an illness. It's something that's so much more common than we think, and you're not alone. So, speaking of common, some statistics, right, from NAMI. So 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 25 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. And suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. Not valuing mental health is truly an epidemic, and it's taking people's lives. We have got to change this. So I'm going to end with some suicide prevention, because that's also the focus of this Mental Health Awareness Day and Mental Illness Awareness Week. So some warning signs for suicide. And again, this is all pulled from NAMI. Increased alcohol and drug use, aggressive behavior, withdrawal from friends, family, and community, dramatic mood swings, impulsive or reckless behavior, collecting and saving pills or buying a weapon, giving away possessions, tying up loose ends, saying goodbye to friends and family. Okay, so here's what you can do. Talk openly and honestly. Don't be afraid to ask questions like, do you have a plan to kill yourself? Remove means such as knives, guns, or stockpiled pills. Calmly ask simple and direct questions like, can I help you call your psychiatrist? Or can we call someone to help you, right? If there are multiple people around, have one person speak at a time. Like, don't overwhelm them or bombard them. It's not, an intervention. Express support and concern. Don't argue, threaten, or raise your voice. Don't debate whether suicide is right or wrong. If you're nervous, try not to fidget or pace, and be patient. So I hope you found this educational, informational, maybe empowering. Maybe you're struggling and this is what you needed to hear in order to seek help. And by the way, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. 8255. And if someone is in crisis, please call that or 911. And I'll also put the number in the show notes for today. But I love you all. I hope you feel supported and empowered. And if you need to talk to someone, feel free to reach out, because I am here to help you on your health journey, and that includes mental health. I hope you have a great week. Please, if you do want to see my daily posts about Mental Illness Awareness Week, please check out my Facebook page, Healthier and Happier Humans. I will also link that in the show notes, and I will talk to you again next week.